Zara, thank you very much for talking to us, first of all. You were 12 when you were groomed by David Saynor. He was 61. I wanted to ask you, first of all, how he went about grooming you.
Me and my friend growing up were introduced to Dave by other young girls that were already associated with Dave, promoting limousine and Hummer, his business basically, and getting paid for that promotion, being supplied with alcohol, drugs, cigarettes, money if you wanted money. Started off as that, just promoting, getting picked up in groups and driving around, drinking, dancing, singing it back. It was very fun at that age.
And what did you think was going on as a 12-year-old?
I don't think I really thought about it. We didn't really see a risk at that time because to us we were just having fun and we were all together, we were a group, we were getting money, we were getting free beer and free cigarettes, which is what we wanted at that age and time, and obviously you don't have money at that age to supply them things, so it was just for fun, I'd say. That's how it started.
And how would you say it then progressed?
It quickly, and I don't really know how it just progressed into dancing around in the back, like with your top off, and then
He would ask you to do that, would he?
yeah, not just me, the other girls as well, in groups as well, or in a two, to dance without your tops on, dance without your trousers on, which then progressed to sitting with your top off, sitting with your bra off, while Dave was sat in front watching through his mirror. And then it'd be sitting with your trousers off, with your legs open, with your knickers off, and he'd offer you more money. The more you did, the more money he'd offer you, and it became normal to do that. I didn't understand. I don't understand why. And it also became normal for me and my friend to be took as a two and being picked up on our own a lot. That became the norm. We were getting picked up from school, getting picked up outside our local youth club.
What, in one of his
Yeah,
limos?
it could have been a limo, a Hummer, whichever one he turned up in. We were obviously missing from school. I couldn't tell you how long for, or sometimes we didn't even know where we were. We would just drive around. We'd be parked up in lay-bys.
Did any teachers or other parents, when you were being picked up in the Hummer, say,
Nobody,
what's going on?
no, not when it was actively going off. No, nobody.
And how did it make you feel when he was asking you to take your clothes off and be in the back of his limo?
Confused. I can't say that there's a specific feeling because most of the time we would be drunk or stoned, whichever. And it'd be after the rise of drinking and dancing and screaming out at windows and promoting his business, and it would be after that. So it'd kind of be a blur.
Last year, he was convicted of targeting 8 girls. You were one of them,
Yeah.
aged between 12 and 17. I'm just going to run through the charges, if I may. 2 charges of rape, 2 charges of paying for the sexual services of a child, 5 charges of meeting a child following sexual grooming, 3 charges of assault by penetration, 2 charges of sexual activity with a child, 1 charge of engaging in sexual activity in the presence of a child. He was found guilty. He was jailed for 24 years. What impact has what he did to you had on you?
It's impacted my whole life. From being the age of 12, I've not lived a normal life. I witnessed Dave assault my friend, which is the first memory that I've got of that feeling of fear, like that unexplainable fear that comes over you. And I carry guilt with me for that, and still do now, and I will do forever, just naturally. Not because I think I was big enough or strong enough to do anything, because I know that I weren't, but that was an event that just don't leave me.
Would you say he wrecked your part of your childhood?
Yeah, 100%. Dave is the first person to rape me, and that will forever be in my head, in my body, in my being. That is something that never goes. It don't matter how long he's in jail for. It don't matter if he dies in jail. It's a scar inside that won't ever be fully healed.
You said he was the first person to rape you. And the reason that you say that is because you say a second man, an adult, when you were still a young girl, a British Pakistani, as opposed to Saynor, who is a white Englishman, you say also groomed and abused you. He is due to go on trial, and we're not going to prejudice that trial. I'm not going to ask you any specific details about it, because the most important thing is that justice is done. Having been groomed and abused by Saynor, did you have any inkling that allegedly the same thing was happening again?
No, because it were a completely different form of abuse and grooming. I think I were in a more vulnerable state as well, so it were kind of easier. I were also struggling with my own identity because of my racial background, as well as the abuse from Dave, feeling isolated at home, isolated from everybody really. And
when you say your racial background, your mum is English,
yeah,
and your father is Pakistani,
yeah,
and you describe yourself as mixed heritage.
yeah, I do.
Yeah. In what way do you say it was different the second time?
To me, in my head, he was my boyfriend, and the fact that from the beginning it wasn't he didn't abuse me straight away, so I was convinced that it was a normal relationship.
Even though you were still very young and he was a grown man?
Yeah, it was clear that he was a man, and it were easy for me to accept that flattery and the compliments, and to feel wanted more than anything. And his background, I think, reeled me in even more because
he was British Pakistani?
Yeah, and I were kind of wanting to indulge in that side of my heritage because my dad wasn't present for a while.
Did you ever talk about this to another adult, whether it was your mum or a teacher or a police officer or a social worker?
I was stopped by a police officer more than once with my second abuser.
You were together?
We were together.
And a police officer stopped you?
Now I know that them seeing one car with an older male and a young girl, that was suspicious, so people were making phone calls and the police would come.
And say what?
What are you doing here? Who are you? Them kind of questions. How old are you? And it were kind of then left for my abuser would speak. The fact that I was mixed heritage was easy for him to say, this is my partner. I weren't asked any specific questions myself. So
And what do you think of that?
I just think it's a complete failure. There were too many things that were already flagging up at that time. So I feel like the police should have been more on the ball, more prompting with people that they are stopping for whatever reason and asking for identification, asking more questions, escorting me home, anything. Just,
Why do you think there was a lack of care?
I think there's still a lack of care. I think
But why?
because it's a much bigger thing than that,
But it's literally their job to
it's
protect
literally their
young
job,
people.
but that is the way that that system is being built. I will never fully trust a police officer. I would not report, still to this day. That speaks for me and a lot of other victims, survivors.
You said because you are mixed heritage and your alleged abuser, the second alleged abuser, was British Pakistani,
Yeah.
that maybe that was relevant in
Yeah.
the lack of action that the police took. Do you believe that in part because your alleged abuser was British Pakistani, that played a role? Or some people have said the police didn't want to investigate in case they were accused of being racist.
Yeah, 100%.
You think that's a factor?
Yeah, definitely, and still is. And I think it's also a thing of, even if I was looked at as a Pakistani individual at that time who was still being abused, it still wouldn't have been addressed. It happens to Pakistani women as well. It happens to Pakistani women that are married, Pakistani children. It's just more taboo. It's more not spoke about, and especially in the Pakistani community.
And I think you want to make it clear it was not only happening to white English girls then.
Yeah,
Show that to be true.
definitely.
Former Police and Crime Commissioner for South Yorkshire, a man called Alan Billings, told the BBC in 2015, "We saw this as child prostitution rather than child abuse." What do you think of that?
I think it's outrageous.
Do you think you were seen as a child prostitute?
100%, yeah.
Like there's no such thing as a child prostitute?
No, there is no such thing. It is just been a word to use to cover up the actual aspect of what it is and what that involves.
There have been 4 reports, at least specifically into what happened in Rotherham. And broadly, they suggest that police and child protection agencies knew about these crimes. Girls as young as 11 being raped, trafficked, beaten by men predominantly of Pakistani heritage. And that all these agencies failed to recognise the vast scale of it, and therefore those crimes weren't prosecuted. Do you believe, though, that stuff was actually covered up?
Yeah.
And why do you say that? What's your evidence for saying that?
They did. I believe they didn't want to take the responsibility.
As I said, there's been one national inquiry into child sexual abuse and at least 4 local ones specific to Rotherham.
Yeah.
Some survivors and some politicians are calling for another national inquiry specifically into grooming and rape gangs. Would you like to see that?
100%. These investigations shouldn't end because the crime doesn't end, the abuse doesn't end. It just takes a different form or gets covered up in a different way.
Why do you have faith in another inquiry then?
It's not that I have faith in it, it's that I think the inquiries are what keeps it in the public eye. It keeps people talking. As long as it's always getting talked about, it's not ever going to be as secret as it used to be or pushed under carpet as it used to be.
Are there political parties or are there politicians that you trust on this?
No.
None.
I don't think it's anyone's real interest for that to be a main focus. It does benefit them to talk about it on live, on social, to address it. It does benefit them. It benefits their numbers. It benefits the party, but it never actually benefits the abusers or the victims and survivors.
You believe that some politicians raise it as an issue in a cynical way then?
Yeah, 100%, because if that was an actual part of their morality, which I think anyone should have, then why was this not a main focus over 16 years ago?
You say it's still going on.
Yeah.
Is it still going on in Rotherham, as far as you know?
I believe 100%, yeah. I think anybody to think that this is not an active thing is very, very, very naive.
This is, as you said, the first time you have spoken publicly. You've never spoken to the media before. You've never done an interview.
No.
Until now. Why did you want to speak to Newsnight and our audience?
I'm currently still in this battle that I'll always be in, but right now I'm fighting for my children and my friends' children and the next generation that's coming, and people should know that it's not going to end. It is down to the mothers, the families, the background, the support networks that you've got, for you to take this responsibility to stop this from happening, because nobody else is going to do that.
What effect has all this had on your life growing up as a teenage girl and as a young adult?
It just affected the whole aspect of it. My schooling years were affected, obviously. I did bag myself some GCSEs and thought that things were turning around. And then after I had my prom, a few things come to light about Dave. People had booked him for their prom, and it kind of flagged a whole load of things up for me. And then from that, I left school. I didn't continue with college. I didn't want to be in Rotherham. It's just an ongoing effect, and it always will be an ongoing effect.
What do you want to see now?
Children and young children to stop facing abuse and being abused, whether it is at home, whether it is in a care home, whether it is in any setting, any environment, just anywhere. These kids it needs to stop. It needs to stop. It is ruining lives. It is ruining people. It is ruining daily lives.
Zara, thank you very much for talking to us. Thank you.
Thank you.